Hello and welcome to Life Colours, the revolutionary program that aims to reverse, improve and prevent all the known chronic lifestyle diseases. Today we're going to be talking about diabetes. Do you know anyone who has a sweet tooth? Well, sometimes a sweet tooth can produce a bitter harvest. We're going to be finding out from diabetes right now. Today we're going to be looking at the colour purple. That represents diabetes. Diabetes affects many people in the Western world, specifically in UK, Europe and the United States. It affects about a third of the population. Many of them are considered to be pre-diabetics. In the UK that means 14 million people. The numbers have tripled only in the last 8 years. And that also means that in America, those figures are mirrored also. But it's not just in the Western world. In Nigeria, Brazil, Russia, China, the rates of diabetes have been increasing at a dramatic rate. In the World Health Organization, they estimate around about 400 million people have the disease. And it's not just a physical cost, there's a financial cost. In the United Kingdom, 10% of the National Health Service is spent on diabetes. They spend roughly £1 million per hour just on diabetes. And if this trend continues, it will bankrupt healthcare systems, not just in the UK, but globally. And here's some of the other human costs. Did you know 50% or more of people who are blind because of diabetes? Also the same figure for people who have to have their limbs amputated or who have kidney disease and go on renal dialysis. Diabetes affects every part of the human body. It also affects things like heart disease. You become more at risk of heart disease if you have diabetes. You may have an increased risk of having a stroke. Erectile dysfunction and infertility are also increased with diabetes. So diabetes is not something you really want to have. Here is a graph of the rates of diabetes rapidly rising in America. Here you see, in 1980, levels were quite stable at around 6 million people in the population. When you came to the mid-90s, suddenly that graph starts to rise. And that can be linked to the increased production and manufacture of sugary foods, especially sweet drinks. So the question is, why the rapid rise in diabetes? And you'll find that the graph for obesity mirrors the graph for diabetes. In fact, over 50% of people who have diabetes are obese. So what is it about what we eat then? Because it's not just what you eat, but how much you eat. Let me take you back to 1925, where a scientist by the name of H.P. Himsworth discovered something novel about diabetes. He looked at the diets of the countries around the world and looked at how much fat was in their diet and how much carbohydrate was in their diet. And then he marked the rate of diabetes. This is what he found. The light areas represent the fat content or the percentage of fat in the diet. The dark areas represent the percentage of carbohydrate. As you can see, as carbohydrate increases in diet, diabetes decreases. And as fat decreases in the diet, diabetes decreases with it. So he discovered that actually carbohydrates in your diet are good for you if you're diabetic, but fats are bad for you. In Japan, here on the left, they have a very low fat content and very high carbohydrate content. Many people like to think that carbohydrates are bad for you, especially if you want to lose weight. That's not actually true. The truth is that complex carbohydrates found in vegetables, fruits, greens, beans are excellent for you if you're a diabetic. It's the simple, refined carbohydrates that do all the damage.
When you hear the word insulin, you may think of a drug taken by people who have diabetes. While this is true, what you may not know is that insulin is one of the many hormones created in the human body. Insulin is important to the body. It allows blood sugar, or glucose, to get into cells to provide them with energy. When you eat, your body breaks down food into glucose in your small intestine. This is your body's source of energy for everything it does, from working and thinking to exercising and healing. Glucose travels through your bloodstream looking for individual cells that need energy. For glucose to get into the cells, it requires insulin. Insulin is the key that unlocks cells for glucose to enter and deliver energy. When insulin arrives, it signals the cell to activate glucose transporters. These transporters pull glucose through cell walls. When glucose moves into the cell, it delivers energy. Insulin is normally produced in the pancreas. When glucose enters your bloodstream, the pancreas matches it with the right amount of insulin to move glucose into your cells. In people with type 2 diabetes, the pancreas may not be doing its entire job. It may produce less and less insulin over time. If this happens, there isn't enough insulin in the bloodstream to unlock cells. With the cells locked, glucose can't get where it is needed to provide energy. In some type 2 diabetes patients, cells build up a resistance to insulin. Even though there may be enough insulin in the bloodstream, it can't unlock cells to allow glucose to enter. As a result, it takes more insulin to find the right key to unlock the cell for glucose. This makes it more difficult for cells to get the energy they need. When glucose can't get into cells, either because there isn't enough insulin or because the body is resisting it, glucose begins to build up in the bloodstream. As a result, all that energy is wasted. It does not get to cells where it is needed. Without glucose in your cells, they lack the energy they require to keep your body working.
That video explains exactly how diabetes works. I like to use a different scenario. When I was a child, I used to play a little game called Knock Down Ginger on the streets of England. Never heard of it? I'm sure you would understand. Knock Down Ginger was a game where you rang the bell of somebody's home and ran away. When the person came to the door, there was no one there, so they'd go back inside. But if I was being really cheeky, I would come back to the same door and ring on the bell again. The person would come out. After several times, no matter how many times you rang on the bell, nobody would answer the door. And this highlights the way that diabetes works. As you saw in the video, if your cells are constantly exposed to insulin to take in the blood sugar, eventually your cells become insulin resistant. They no longer open the door to glucose. When that happens, your blood glucose increases and the glucose becomes quite toxic to your system. And if your blood sugar increases, your brain says, well, we need more insulin. So it releases more insulin, making your cells even more resistant, and the blood sugar increases even more. The question is, what can I do about it? Well, the first thing you have to do is see your doctor. Never try anything or any lifestyle program without discussing it and partnering with your doctor. But it's not just about treating diabetes. What we really want to know is how to reverse diabetes. And the reversal of diabetes comes under the dark purple plan. The dark purple plan, which goes from week 1 to week 4. And this involves starting by eliminating all simple sugary foods. Eliminating things such as juices, sweet drinks, and especially alcohol. I recently met somebody who was 70 plus years old. He hadn't drunk anything except water for over 30 years, and he looked absolutely fantastic. As well as the drinks, you need to cut out all the white stuff, all the white bread, all the white rice, and the white pasta, even potatoes. Those kind of simple carbohydrates are toxic to you if you have diabetes. So for 2 weeks only, the only food you can eat are greens, beans, and vegetables. Actually, that's not that hard because there are lots of wonderful salads you can have, lots of wonderful stews, but you do have to eliminate all of those sugary sources. Now, many people ask me, well, that's easy to say, Dr. Chitty, but how do I do it? You know, I really like to eat my cakes, my biscuits, my whatever. Well, I've come up with a wonderful plan called the Dr. Chitty method. I devised it because I personally am quite addicted to sugary things myself, and I had to find a way to stop myself eating so much. Now, the Dr. Chitty method goes like this. If you want to have a donut or a cake or a biscuit, never say to yourself, I can't eat the donut. If you say that to yourself, your mind will always say, well, I want it even more. We always want what we can't have. Instead, say to yourself, I will eat the donut, but I will eat it in half an hour. And at that point, eat yourself an apple. When you eat that apple will release glucose slowly into your bloodstream. So by half an hour, your blood sugar will be high enough to help you think, you know what, I actually don't need that donut anymore. It gives you that extra boost to overcome that craving. Now, some of you may say, well, what about after half an hour if I still want to eat that donut? Well, have another apple or have a carrot or something, try that again. And I guarantee that 9 times out of 10, it will take away the desire for the donut. So I call it the Dr. Chitty method because really it stands for choose to have it, but delay it. Choose to have it, choose to have the donut, don't resist it, but delay it for half an hour, eat the apple, and the desire will go away. So after we've tried that method, you may still fall down and say, well, you know, I need to have that donut anyway. Well, some of us, when we eat one donut or one chocolate, we want to eat the whole packet. I know I have that problem myself. So what can you do to interrupt that feeding? When it comes to eating, make sure you limit yourself to 2 meals per day. And after every meal, have a walk of about 60 minutes to 30 minutes. That is very important because it means that your blood sugar will always be quite stable. There'll be no high spikes in blood sugar and there'll be no high spikes in insulin. Very important that before you eat and after you've done that walk, check your blood glucose. Because in the first few weeks, your blood sugars may be going up and down differently to what you would imagine. And again, I repeat to you, make sure that you only drink water. If your blood pressure is okay, you may be able to introduce some higher resistance exercise, especially exercising your legs because they're big muscles and they will absorb much of the glucose. As well as the drinking and the eating, you have to manage stress levels. That is part of the black lifestyle in Life Colors. So it's very important that you practice patience and eliminate things like bitterness that are effective in the blue and the red lifestyle. Now in the weeks 4 to 8, your blood sugar would be almost normal. So with your doctor's permission, you should be reducing or eliminating your medication. So the purple lifestyle is the same as the dark purple lifestyle, And it just means that you can now start to add in things like whole grain, breads, rice or pasta, or a piece of fruit. You can either or them each day. Now, if your blood glucose levels ever rise up again, whilst you're eating a piece of fruit or having some of the carbohydrate, it's very important that you go back to the dark purple lifestyle for at least a week until your blood sugars start to stabilize again. So preventing diabetes is for the rest of your life. And what you must now be able to do, you can add more carbohydrates to your meal every day and fruit, and your blood sugar should stay normal. You can also limit your meat intake to once or twice per week. You don't have to have any meat at this stage, but for those of you who feel that you must have some meat, you can just limit it to once or twice a week. And if you have to have a sweet drink, try not to have the juices. Instead, try to have the smoothies that are a blend and still have all the fiber within them. And limit that also to twice per week. Essentially, at the heart of diabetes is the matter of self-control. The Dr. Chidi method helps you get there slightly, but you're going to have to practice this throughout your life. And things that will help you are being involved in activities you like to do. For example, certain types of exercise will help with your levels of self-control. But if you follow the purple lifestyle plan, you will eventually be free of diabetes. And that is a way to live your life with color. Thank you. Well, that brings us to the end of the Purple Life Color. I hope it's been useful to you. For more information, please refer to my book, Life Colors. It has more information about recipes, exercises, and all the practical tips you need. I hope you find that useful too. And you can obviously follow me on Twitter at Dr. Chidi 24/7. But until next time, I pray and hope that you live your life with color.